Hello and welcome to another selection of the hottest Q&As Reddit has to offer. People who saved themselves for marriage and eventually got divorced. What was your approach towards sex after the divorce? This was my wife. We've been divorced for 3 years and I'm pretty sure she hasn't had sex since, and won't until she gets married again. So she's apparently been true to her principles. How long were you dating before you were married? 7 hours. Somebody call 911. One of my lifelong friends comes from an extremely Christian family. All 3 kids were taught how bad sex before marriage is. 2 of the 3 ended up with children out of wedlock. My close friend of these siblings saved herself but ended up rushing into marriage with very little self-awareness and found herself in a completely sexually, and otherwise, incompatible marriage. All 3 are divorced at least once now. One has more baby mamas than I can keep track of. After my friend's divorce, she abandoned the no sex before marriage business. She didn't have any wild escapades but developed strong sexual, and otherwise, chemistry with her now husband. Her parents still tried to shame them. It was a cluster to watch over the years. Whenever a story starts with extreme, insert religion, family, you know it's going to be pretty whack. This doesn't apply to me, but I do have a friend who is in this boat. His approach has been to swear off relationships and be celibate for the rest of his life. Well, that's one way to handle it, I guess. Sounds like he will be the only one handling it. Crap, that was good. I saved myself for marriage and thought my fiancé was super sweet and supportive for waiting with me even though he didn't want to. Turns out he was so okay with it because he was doing other chicks behind my back. And he didn't stop doing other chicks when we got married either. Once we got divorced, I pretty much just didn't care anymore. I'm still not capable of having sex with someone I don't believe I'm in love with, but I don't care about virginity or body count or anything like that anymore. I've had 5 long-term boyfriends, so I've slept with 5 people total. I don't ever feel bad about it or regret sleeping with them. And I don't feel like having one-night stands or casual sex is a bad thing by any means either. I just personally don't want to have sex with someone unless I believe I'm in love with them. Mom didn't have sex for 8 years after getting divorced. She's a devoted Christian for sure. Unfortunately, she got drunk and ruined her 8-year streak. Got it on with my boyfriend's dad. Sigh. Are you going to be dating your stepbro here soon? Write this down. Pornhub people. I'm fairly certain they have this one covered already. I knew a girl that was very hands-off prior to marriage. I never really thought too much about it until I went to her wedding, and before they kissed the pastor made the announcement that this will be their first kiss, and I was blown away that they had never kissed before. But after their "you may now kiss the bride" kiss, it was obviously their first kiss. The rest of the wedding and reception went well enough, and I heard nothing from them for a few months until someone told me they are getting a divorce, less than 6 months later. I have a few theories on why. I think the bride is asexual and either never realized it or did not reveal that prior to getting married. She got a bunch of tattoos after the divorce, full chest ink, sleeves. But I never heard of her dating after, but we're not close. I used to think I was asexual when it came to being in a relationship with guys. When it came to get fickle, it's like something would just turn off in my head. I didn't think anything of it, I just thought it was shyness. Turns out I was just really gay. In our conservative Lebanese society, after the first divorce, you get a free pass actually. Some people would talk about you, but a lot of conservative people would just tell them she's divorced, she can do what she wants from what I've been told. My GF, Greek culture is very similar. You get a black mark which can be seen as bad, or completely liberating. Greek here, that's totally true. I'm in my mid-30s, divorced. Greeks usually don't get divorced, so I'm the black sheep. The old ladies at church ask if I'm dating, going out, etc. I feel like they're trying to live through me vicariously. Good question. I'm an ex-Mormon and was a virgin when I got married at 21. Was married for over 6 years, had a good, active sex life, and when I got divorced 2 years back, it was a strange new world. I was excited to have sex with new people, but I quickly found after a handful of hookups that it wasn't always that great. There were some exceptions obviously, but I often find that people who haven't been in long-term relationships are pretty lousy in bed. Having a bunch of one-night stands doesn't make you better at freaking emo, getting to know someone's body and experimenting does. If I could do it over again, I wouldn't have saved myself for marriage. The best sex I've had has been after my divorce. I have a general rule now that I won't have sex on the first date. I like having more of an emotional connection with the other person. It's more enjoyable that way for me. Got married in my mid-20s, not realizing that asexuality was even a thing, let alone that I could possibly apply to a good Christian boy who had saved himself. Purity culture in some Christian circles can be a really rough time. We were married for about a year and a half, and I only ever came once from sex or sexual interaction with her. It was really rough for both of us, the hits to her self-esteem, the belief that I was broken in some way. Over time we just stopped really trying. A whole lot of other factors played into the split, but that was definitely one of them. I spent a couple of years after avoiding all possible romantic entanglements, then ventured out a little and found some open-minded people who I briefly dated here or there. It was nice to be close to someone again, and I have found that I really like making other people have a good time. There is something immensely satisfying to me to be the cause of someone else's satisfaction, but it can be a little hard for a partner since I am so devoid of sexual reaction. It takes a fair bit of reassurance and good communication to keep that stuff good and healthy, and so they don't feel like they are using me or that I find them repulsive or whatever. Still a work in progress, I guess. This is probably gonna weird people out that I know this, but my mom. I know she could be lying, but her and I are painfully open with one another. She was raised at a private Catholic school growing up and claims she never had sex before marrying my dad in their late 30s, and I'm very inclined to believe her. They adopted us, me and my twin sister, when she was 43 and presumably couldn't have kids. My dad cheated on my mom with his current, and third wife, when I was 2.5, and my mom hasn't even been on a date since. She's very content with being single. She's 70, and has been single for 25 years. She said she got coffee with a guy when we were 4 but thought he was weird. She wouldn't qualify it as a date. I think my mom would go out with someone, but she doesn't care enough to look. She's not on dating apps. If she met some dude at the garden store and he just asked her out, she would probably say yes. It just doesn't happen. By and large, I'm pretty sure my mom just wants to hang out with my aunt, her sister and best friend, and garden. My scenario was a bit unique in that my ex-husband and I never did the deed in our marriage. After the divorce, I really couldn't wait to lose my V card. I had to suppress my sexuality for so long that my mindset was just to let loose and have some fun. But then I met a really lovely man and we hit it off really well. We're so compatible in many ways, especially in the bedroom, and I have no desire to know what sex would be like with someone else. Would I tell others to wait for marriage? Probably not. But doing it with someone you are deeply in love with is one of the most amazing things in the world, and it's worth waiting for that person to come into your life. I kind of fit this. I was only with one person voluntarily, and was date raped by the next man, before I got married. I was a lonely fool and married my ex after only 3 weeks of dating. Of course I got pregnant right away. The next 20 years were full of abuse of every imaginable type. I won't go into it here. Check my post history if you're that curious. After my husband tried to kill me, he went to prison and I divorced him immediately. The last 6 years I've been with a wonderful, adventurous partner, and I've done everything I've ever wanted to try with him. I've had more sex with him in 6 years than I did with my ex in 20 years. Plus, not being raped is nice. As someone who falls into this category, I felt like I've been sold such a lie. I was told from the time I was a little girl, which is super creepy BTW, that anything sexual before marriage was wrong, so I didn't have it until getting married to my first boyfriend at 19, cause you know, the whole you can't have sex unless you're married, or else it not only means you're bad, dirty, ungodly, won't be blessed, maybe won't go to heaven, and definitely no one else will ever want you situation that I was told I was in. Anyway, after leaving my abusive ex several years in, I realized waiting was such a terrible idea. I had no idea about consent, a healthy life, communication, etc. All that to say, my views changed to that of thinking people should have sex with people they care about / love / just want to have sex with if everyone is an adult and wanting the same thing. I would never encourage my kids to wait until marriage, quite the opposite. Learn about your sexuality, safe sex, consent, comparability, etc. Don't rely on Sky Daddy to somehow weirdly just bless your virginal abusive sex life. I only partially fit here because my husband is the only person I've ever been with. We come from a yeehaw town that teaches abstinence as their sex ed. Lots of teen pregnancy here. For reference, I was shocked when my husband put it in. I didn't know it went in there. We didn't wait until we were married to have sex, but we did stay together all through high school and college, and I have never been with anyone else, He had sex with a previous girlfriend. We now have 2 children together and are going to approach the whole sex talk very differently than our parents did. Whether they're ready or not, teens have sex. I would rather my children be educated and safe when they're ready to take that step. As far as sex goes, I just can't really picture sex with anyone else / get turned on by the thought of sex with anyone else. I only know what sex with him is like and he knows my body and what I like, so I have no complaints. He's my best friend and I don't ever see us getting a divorce, but if we did, I imagine I would have a pretty hard time wanting to have sex with anyone else, not for religious reasons. Wow, I'm surprised I'm the only real answer here. I wanted to explore. And I did. A lot of it was about doing things and then being self-aware enough to know how I felt about it and if I wanted to do it again. I think in the end I've been more sexually active than most people I know. Tinder was a lot of fun for a while. I came out of that marriage with more confidence than I started it with, and that made me feel sexy, which made me horny lol. I realized saving myself and being pure was sort of silly. Having sex with multiple people while I was single didn't and hasn't harmed my relationships since. In many ways it helped me know what I want and learn how to be vocal about it. Now 5+ years later I'm back to being monogamous and wanting to explore my sexuality with my current so instead of a bunch of people, but I'm still very open about a lot and also know where to draw the line. But I was definitely wild for a bit and had a blast. My marriage of 5 years ended a month ago, divorce still pending. We were both virgins when we got married and sex ended up being a huge problem in our relationship. I honestly don't know what I will do in the future in regards to sex. I definitely will never be one to sleep around, but I'm not sure if I will be open to having sex with someone that I'm in a committed relationship with before being married. This stems from a Christian faith perspective for me. Could you expand on how the sex ended up being a huge problem for 2 virgins? Serious, what would have been your answer or question? Leave it in the comments below. Slap that like and subscribe button for more, and check out the link in the video description for even more answers. Peace out, and catch you in the next video.